or actually good afternoon as of right now. Thank you everybody for joining us here today. Welcome to Understanding Web 3.0. This is the latest webinar presented by the Digital Currency Innovation Lab, or DCIL. My name is Ryan Ozawa. I'm a community engagement consultant with the DCIL. Before we get started, I would like to provide some background. The Innovation Lab is a partnership between the State Division of Financial Institutions, that's DFI, and the Hawaii Technology Development Corporation, or HTDC, and its mission is to help the state explore economic opportunities brought about by virtual currencies, as well as gather data through companies admitted into the program to help guide legislation. As we speak right now, in fact, the Ways and Means Committee at the state capitol is preparing to discuss a critical bill to enable this to happen. But for more information on this program, you can visit the HTDC website at htdc.org and look for the DCIL under programs. So this webinar is part of the DCIL Presents series. It's offered to educate and raise awareness around virtual currencies. Today, we are going to hear once again from Spencer Toyama. He is a co-founder of Sudokrew Solutions. Sudokrew Solutions is a Hawaii-based software development shop that builds Web3 applications and also shares insights gathered from working in the Web3 ecosystem. Spencer is also a very valued member of the recently formed DCIL Advisory Group, the members of which help to guide this webinar series, and you can see all the members on the website. Today, Spencer will be covering the vast ecosystem of Web 3.0 and the related concepts of decentralized finance, or DeFi, decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, non-fungible tokens, NFTs, you may have heard of those, and the Metaverse. So before we dive into the session, I'd like to remind everyone that this session is recorded and will be sent to those who registered for the webinar, as well as posted on YouTube to share with anyone else. And during the presentation, please send in your questions through the Q&A function available in Zoom. And if we have time at the end of Spencer's presentation, we will try to address them at the end. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to this virtual stage Spencer. Spencer, please jump on and take it away.
Hey, okay there. I can start my video.
Looking good.
All right. You know, these things are always awkward because I'm like just speaking into a void and there are probably people paying attention.
I am sitting in rapt attention.
Oh, I don't know why you're doing that. So, hi, I'm Spencer. Oh, wait, I think I'm sharing the wrong, I'm definitely sharing the wrong screen. Sorry. One has my notes and the other one is meant for presenting. But I can share my notes afterwards. There's a ton of links that I have to use for this one. But introductions, I'm Spencer. I'm one of the co-founders for Sudokrew. We've built web and mobile apps for a while, for I think over 9 years, about 9 years now, yeah. And we've been moving into the Web3 space for the last year or so. And so I can share some of our findings from that. And as a hobby, I've been getting into this as well. More interested in the technology than, you know, I think a lot of what the hype tends to be about. So let's start with what is Web3, because I think there's like a lot of different ways to interpret this. And just to start off, this is about a 46 slide long presentation. I'm going to try to get through all of them. And this will be mostly about breadth and not depth. So here we go. Let's start with Web 1.0. Oh, I am on the wrong screen again. Web 1.0. Web 1.0 is what a lot of people, like millennials, Gen X and Zoom and boomers, probably started out with AOL Online, America Online, Yahoo. But this is post-internet, pre-asynchronous web, where communication was basically one way between a computer that humans would use and a server, which is a computer that humans are not interacting with directly. So, you know, in the case of Yahoo, you're putting in a search query, and then that query would be transmitted to a server farm somewhere, and then you would get your result back. But you're only getting only one computer is kind of sending information at a time. And then came Web 2.0, which was the hub and spoke model of the internet, or of the web. Internet and web are two different things, but for the web, hub and spoke was foundational in the way that a lot of tech companies started to grow, where you have your computer, again, at home, running an app. We call it a front-end app. But this app is, whenever you're accessing a website, that front-end app is running on your computer and interacting with another app that is on a server. So this architecture, this hub and spoke architecture, lended itself for targeted ads, data-driven content, user-generated content, hub-controlled content, centralized control over content. But it made really interesting and interactive experiences that we all kind of know and use today. Things like YouTube. YouTube collects your data, it collects your content preferences, as well as the content that you're producing, and then it serves you ads based on kind of like your profile. But this is like a web 2.0 innovation. And then we have things like Instagram and Facebook, which we all know. By the way, these are not screens from my feeds. These are just random things that I picked up from the internet. But again, it's taking targeted ads. It targets ads and content based on your preferences and the content you create. Not that much different from YouTube, although very different interfaces. And then we have, this one's kind of meta, but we have things like Google Apps, Google Docs, that takes your data and creates advertising profiles. So ownership of the content that is produced is not really yours. It's it belongs to Google after that, and ownership of the content that's produced or how it is distributed is not considered, or there's kind of negligible from the perspective of the Web 2.0 companies. And that brings us into Web 2.0 business models, which largely rely on user-generated content, where users create content, they deliver it to a social media company, or in Google, it's an ad company. They deliver that content back to you, and then that allows advertisers to advertise things for you, and you consume that. And then they pay the social media companies, but they generally do not pay the content developed, like, you know, the content creators. I think TikTok and YouTube both provide content creator compensation. And, oh, sorry, I just realized Ryan was chatting with me too. But yeah, sorry, YouTube and TikTok both provide content compensation, but for the most part, they're taking the lion's share. Platforms like Instagram and Facebook don't give any compensation for the content they create, but they're selling the eyeballs that you know, content creators attract. And so that brings us to Web 3.0, which is hubless-ish. In that the apps that are being created for Web3 are not, a lot of them are currently reliant on Web2 infrastructure. So that's why it's like hubless-ish. It's not completely hubless, but it allows for content to be created and owned by the people that create them. And so you can create apps around this type of ownership. So it's, I guess, like heading towards hublessness is the idea. although I don't think completely distributed app models are gonna, I mean, there are going to be some, but for the most part, the things that everyone are going to use, it's still going to require a lot of Web 2 infrastructure to make beautiful experiences. But in the Web 3 world, content, intellectual property, data, music, video, artwork, photography, all of these things that we create are or can now be owned by the creators. And so that brings about new business models like Odyssey, which is kind of a YouTube-ish platform where the content creators can, well, Odyssey is a distributed, Odyssey is centralized, but has decentralized content. And it uses both Web 2 and Web 3 technologies to compensate creators for their work. So I think compensation for Odyssey is a little bit better than YouTube, but the algorithm still has a ways to go. But it's just like a good example of, if we go back to this slide, and I click the wrong slide again, there's now a bigger pay arrow going back to the user. So I'm confusing myself with multiple screens. But how can digital ownership exist? Like, especially with things like images and photography, can't we just copy and paste? And that's where non-fungible tokens come in. NFTs are, I'm sure everyone's heard of NFTs at this point, or that's probably why a lot of people are tuning in. But NFTs are just digital ownership. That's all it is. And they come in many forms and flavors, which I'll go through now. Right now, a lot of people know NFTs for artwork. This is Beeple, the Beeple piece of art that sold for $69 million. But keep in mind that Beeple didn't just post this. He was posting on Instagram for 5,000 days straight, and then he released this artwork, which was a one-of-one. A lot of artwork is serialized, just like prints. But in this case, this is a one-of-one, and so the authorship, or I guess the creatorship of this artwork, can be traced directly back to Beeple's blockchain address. So there's no question as to who created that artwork. This is definitively Beeple's artwork, and whoever owns the NFT definitively owns that NFT. Other examples. This is a PFP project, or proof for picture project called Azuki. This is a Metaverse identity project, and it provides users with access to exclusive streetwear collabs, NFT projects, and live events. We have locally, we have the Angry Natives project, which donates its royalties to underserved charities in Hawaii. And we have a really big one called Fomomofos. Oh, I just realized I'm not clicking on that screen. Fomomofos, this was done by Jasper Wong, and this is this is generative art, and this collection I think went for about $13 million in total. So artwork provides a huge opportunity for artists right now, as you can see. But there's also music. New protocols are being developed to provide music creators with royalties that benefit the artist over the business protocol. Instead of receiving 5 to 15% of royalties, artists can now receive up to 100% of their royalties and control the distribution of their content. This is Catalog. Catalog provides artists with 100% of the sales and 100% of the royalties of the music stored on the blockchain. There's also Sound. Sound uses NFTs to provide membership and community experiences for holders. Holders of the Sound token receive serialized sound recordings, exclusive Discord access, and common access to songs. But you can see that there's kind of a interesting value add for these types of things, and especially I came from the music industry, or I worked in the music industry for a while, I think close to a decade, but it is like fairly unfair to artists. I think artists start at about 5%. And so now like upcoming artists can start with 100% royalties, which really puts the labels at a disadvantage because they are essentially middle humans for all of this. You can also create NFTs based on land or tokenized land. This is a project called Nemus. Nemus purchases large tracts of land in the Amazon rainforest and tokenizes the land to prevent deforestation. So you can purchase different hectares of land. They are not providing carbon offsets, but I'm hoping that they will in the future. This is Bacon Coin, or the Bacon Protocol, which tokenizes mortgages and returns tokens to holders at a rate of about 2 to 3%. This is kind of somewhere between decentralized finance and NFTs, or it creates DeFi opportunities based on tokenizing liens on properties. You can also tokenize carbon. These are have been very interesting projects for me. The voluntary carbon market has given birth to carbon-based protocols for trading and offsetting carbon emissions in crypto, which is a big concern in the crypto industry right now. There's always a lot of controversy over it. This is a diagram of the Toucan protocol, and Toucan, or base carbon token, and base carbon token, nature carbon token, and moss carbon tokens, they all kind of follow this process where they provide a protocol for verified carbon offsets to be tokenized and traded on the open crypto markets. Owners of the carbon credits, using a service like Vera, they can retire those credits, and then Vera is off-chain, so Vera is not on the blockchain, and if they have these verified carbon credits, there is a protocol to take these carbon credits and put them on chain. And so that's what tokens like nature carbon token, base carbon tons, and moss carbon token all represent. They represent carbon offsets that have been retired off chain and are now on chain. The development of these tokens have led to projects like Kalima. Kalima is a rebase or Ponzi game protocol that purchases base carbon tons as a reserve currency, very similar to the Federal Reserve, which is also a Ponzi game. I'm not saying it's a Ponzi scheme. They're very different things. Well, not that different. They follow different similar mechanisms. But you can think of our Federal Reserve as backed by the US military, and these rebase tokens as backed by the blockchain. Sorry. So Kalima will gives an incentive to store these carbon tokens in a rebase token, and then has a DAO governance, which I'll get into later. There's also blockchain gaming, which is a whole thing on its own. but this allows for new game mechanics. Oh, I did not switch slides. Such as play to earn or win to earn games. Players right now in the Philippines are playing games like Axie Infinity and earning about $2,000 a month, playing full time. This has actually led to a lot of people in the Philippines quitting their jobs to play this game, where you can rent an NFT to earn in-game rewards and redeem them in the open crypto markets for money that you can spend. There's virtual property. I should have added more slides. I could have added more slides because the virtual property is getting a lot of attention right now as Metaverse plays. The one that I'm featuring right here is Decentraland, but there are other projects like Sandbox where you can own virtual land rights, and I guess well, Decentraland, you can do a lot more than land. You can own virtual items, avatars, and sell them. And the idea is that you can sell them and use them in VR. And Decentraland has both, most of these projects have both non-fungible and fungible tokens involved. So there's almost always a way to, earn tokens through the ownership of these NFTs. NFTs can also be used for membership. Vfriends, or Gary V's project, is probably the most well-known of these. Vfriends, I have too many screens. Sorry, I'm trying to read my notes from giving these Q&As too. Vfriends provides exclusive access to events, Discord, and Zoom classes for members and fans of Gary V. And that leads us to decentralized autonomous organizations, where a lot of times they're using these tokens, like the Vfriends tokens, to authenticate membership. And with that membership, you can do things like vote, make decisions on governance. So this is an example of the sushi swap DAO, where members can make proposals and vote on governance of how the protocol is run. And the proposals can run a huge gamut. So this is from their snapshot. Membership and NFTs can also include alpha. This is, I know this does not look like super valuable NFT art, but Monkey DAO, I'm not sure what they trade at, but they're pretty expensive. I want to say they're at least $1,000 for an NFT. But the benefit of owning one of these NFTs is you get exclusive access to a Discord that provides information on upcoming drops. A lot of creators are in that Discord, and they can coordinate to purchase NFTs en masse, to raise prices, or even coordinate sales and launches. All kinds of things you can do with a community like that. And recently there have been some interesting uses of DAOs, like the Constitution DAO, where they attempted to buy the Constitution for $40 million. I think they raised about $40 million within a week, only to be outbid by a hedge fund manager. Kind of interesting. Recently, with the war in Ukraine, the Ukraine DAO was launched, or I think it was launched well before this, but this is a really interesting thing that's happening in the geopolitical sphere, where I don't think GoFundMe would actively fundraise for military supplies and weapons, but Ukraine DAO can. They raised about $6.7 million for those affected by the recent war. I think most of this is actually going to humanitarian aid in Ukraine, This was organized by Pussy Riot, Trippy Labs, and Pleaser DAO. That brings us to Decentralized Finance, which has been ever evolving. I think we're still very early in the decentralized finance space. It's been a huge undertaking of Web3 with the release of a number of DeFi services, but we're going to start with stablecoins. Stablecoins are cryptocurrencies where the price is designed to be pegged to a currency or something that's stable. The three icons that I have up right now are USDC, DAI, and Tether. These are algorithmic stablecoins that are pegged to the US dollar. So one USDC is $1, one DAI is $1, one USDT is $1. And some of these are backed by US Treasury bonds or corporate bonds to ensure that they're always each token is $1. I will not get into the mechanics of how these work because that's a whole different thing. But through the innovation of stablecoins, we have projects like Umoja Money, which provides near field communication cards to humanitarian aid recipients that they can use those stablecoins to get food and medicine. This is done by a team called Emerging Impact. But the problem that they were trying to solve was humanitarian aid is often intercepted because it's often pallets of cash that are shipped over and intercepted by warlords or drug lords. And this way they can ship encrypted cards like this care card that you see, and it's protected by PIN, which is delivered separately, so people can actually get the aid that was meant for them. But I think this is a brilliant use of stablecoins. And then we have decentralized exchanges, which was kind of birthed out of a lot of stablecoins because it provided liquidity to a lot of projects. So we have projects that are automated market makers like Uniswap and SushiSwap. I'll provide some screens here. With decentralized exchanges, providing liquidity is often is done through liquidity pools, which is basically creating your own foreign exchange bank. You deposit your crypto into liquidity pools and reserve crypto as a reward, crypto as people use your pools. I think Uniswap is 0.3% per transaction. I think SushiSwap is the same. So APR can vary from 3 to 100+% depending on the pool. There's a fair amount of risk. There's impermeable loss with all of these, but you can also do like coins together to mitigate against that. But this is a really good example of basically starting a foreign exchange bank or a scalable foreign exchange bank. And the screenshot that I have presenting right now, we see things like USDC and wrapped ETH, or that's WETH. But basically you're depositing USDC and wrapped ETH into one pool, and whenever someone uses that pool, they have to put in one of those tokens. So they'll put in wrapped ETH and then remove USDC, or put in USDC and remove wrapped ETH. But that gives liquidity both to wrapped ETH and USDC, so that wrapped ETH will always have a dollar pegged value. And so when people want to swap, they are basically dipping into your liquidity pool and taking out one token for the other. So this is just the interface for SushiSwap, where displaying the swap. You can also do lending and borrowing in DeFi world. Decentralized financing provides scalable financial solutions that, I guess, you know, in the example of liquidity pools, where you're basically being a foreign exchange bank, the big innovation in DeFi is that it's scalable. So you don't need millions of dollars to start your own foreign exchange bank. You can do it with $1 if you want. I wouldn't advise it because gas fees are terrible right now, but it is possible to start a liquidity pool with 50 cents of wrapped ETH and 50 cents of USDC, and then taking like a 17% return on that. There are also things like flash loans. This is Aave protocol, where you can borrow uncollateralized flash loans within a transaction block, and it has to be paid back within that transaction block. But it's a way of borrowing money without any collateral. And then there are collateralized loans like Alchemex, which you provide the collateral and can borrow, I think in this case, DAI against your collateral that you don't have to pay back, because they're going to invest it for you, and then the loan pays back itself, and after a certain amount of time, you get your money back. And then there's lending, where you loan out crypto and then receive rewards in crypto. This is SushiSwap and Uniswap both provide protocols that allow holders to lend their cryptocurrency in exchange for APR. There are no minimums or maximums to provide loans. So unlike being an accredited investor, you can provide a loan to someone for as little as 50 cents or 1 cent or a fraction of a penny, to billions of dollars if you want. And then I'm going to end on the Metaverse. Metaverse is a confusing term. I just use Ready Player One because it is kind of like an example of what a Metaverse could look like, where you have different types of properties. I think it is very unlikely to see a Ready Player One Metaverse, only because it's dealing with tightly guarded intellectual property. But you can have the whole idea behind the Metaverse is that the digital property that you own is portable to other environments. So if you're in Sandbox or Decentraland, theoretically you could be able to move your items from Decentraland to Sandbox to another Metaverse. You could have your Azuki skin or your FOMO avatar in either Metaverse. You could, I think you kind of get the idea, but it's kind of like the ultimate mashup between digital goods. And I think that the next Walt Disney or Chuck Jones is likely going to come out of one of these types of projects where they're developing characters and stories, and the crowd that owns all of it end up benefiting from the success of these projects. So you do see things like Bored Ape Yacht Club releasing a cartoon series and developing a video game to benefit all of the NFT holders that purchased those NFTs in the first place. So I think the future of work will favor creators and be more inclusive of consumers and gamers, instead of just going directly to companies. So business models are going to be a lot more distributed than they are today. And oh, sweet! I got through all my slides. That was slide number 45. This is number 46, and I'll read through some of these Q&As.
Thank you very much, Spencer. Yes, that covered a lot of different topics. So I am hoping that we can get questions about a number of them. But I think that the first question from Nani about NFTs, and there's the Fomomofos from Jasper Wong. There's Aloha NFT that gave an earlier presentation in the series. There's the group that you had mentioned doing it for fundraising. But I guess one question is, Nani's question is there like a central point where all of these Hawaii initiatives can find each other or collaborate?
Yeah, there are discords for this. Let's see, there's NFT Discord. I would say if you're in the NFT space, then be active on discords and get involved with other projects. But I don't think there's like a centralized place. So it's kind of against the whole decentralized direction that everything is going in.
I can
But
see that. Yeah, I'm in the discords for the different NFTs that I'm in, but it's not like there's a lobby or anything for any of them.
no, and you know you can kind of tell from this presentation the NFT space is pretty vast. There's launches every day. I don't yeah I don't know about being like geographically constrained. How to take advantage of that. I think Angry Natives did a really good job of taking advantage of that. Yeah, I would check out the NFCHEE Discord and
NFT.
yeah, NFT
I like it.
and see if you can network there. Kauai
All right.
Dev is the name of our organization. We all live on Kauai. Oh, very cool. Very
Nice.
cool.
Very cool. Kent wanted to know a little. You did touch on NFTs and crypto in gaming. That was, I think, one or two slides of your presentation. I know that it's controversial, so maybe you can touch on that. Maybe in terms of there are play to earn games and platforms, but I know that like some established game brands have had a very bad time trying to get involved in NFTs. Any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, Ubisoft has had a terrible time trying to get traction on that. But, you know, I think the crypto space and NFTs, or like crypto and gaming, has kind of had a rivalry type of relationship because of scarcity of video cards, environmental concerns. But I think it is kind of I think I don't know how it's gonna go, because I think gaming has gotten a lot more diverse than when I was a kid playing Nintendo, and then getting into hardcore PC games like in my teens and 20s. But there's also been like a rise of mobile games, casual games, and so like, what is a gamer now? I think a gamer can take many different forms, and it's probably going to be more diverse moving forward. So NFT gaming, or like play to earn, play to win type of mechanics, I think those are. I do think it's a more equitable model for consumers. Things like Axie Infinity, where if you think about the current business model for gaming, you know, people buy these skins on Fortnite, which is a free-to-play game, and then who gets the revenue from that? It's mostly the game producers, right? But if you are an NFT holder for this game, and their governance allows the revenue to flow back to the NFT holders that funded the game in the first place. I mean, I don't know if it came across, but NFTs right now are kind of being used like crowdfunding. So, you know, they'll release an NFT for a game, and then it's kind of like having ownership in that game. But if every time a skin is sold in that game, the revenue went back to the NFT holders instead of the game developers, I think that's going to create a more, or could potentially create a more equitable situation for gamers.
Right, like having an NFT is like having a vote and a share in a company. I've seen some of those. There's one started by an Iolani grad called Coin Hunt World that apparently is really big in the Philippines for some reason as well. So,
Oh yeah, the Philippines has a ton of traction right now.
two questions that are effectively similar, so we'll connect them together. And I'm sure you get this a lot, Spencer, from John and Jackson. Where do you get started? I mean, really, what's the low barrier to entry, low cost? Like, how do you start to play without, well, frankly, getting in trouble?
I have no idea. I started by getting wrecked. Like, I started by just losing money, and like a lot of people that I know started this space. Like, I do know a guy that got started with BitConnect, which was a total Ponzi scheme. I got wrecked in Olympus DAO.
Oh no.
Uh, yeah, yeah. Uh, but I don't think there's a safe starting point. I think there are only volatile starting points right now. I don't know if that helps, but yeah, I would try to stick to things that have high total value locked. TVL, you'll see that on a lot of DeFi projects, and look at the things that are basically more popular. I don't think I would stray away from um, the next meme coin that everyone is hyping up, but you don't really understand the utility. Um, you know, I would say work in the spaces that interest you, and try to find an understanding of those spaces, because the spaces are vast, right? Like, I'm definitely not an expert in like music and land NFTs, but they have their own ecosystems on their own, and you can rabbit hole into any one of these projects pretty easily. But if you don't understand the utility of how they're going to be used, they're probably going to be worthless. Not financial advice.
Right. Not financial advice, very important. I mean, I think unfortunately a lot of the focus is on the potential to make money. And I think that that's just not proven out for a lot of these projects. So it's really more about getting interested in a hobby, and hobbies are expensive. So
Yeah,
just
I would say think of it more as a hobby, and like think about the technology, not about the returns. Because once you understand the technology, the returns will make more sense. But if you're just getting in to make money and invest in things that you don't understand, that is kind of a recipe for getting wrecked.
right. I remember this. I think it was a Reddit thread, because there's these virtual land, Decentraland, and similar things. You know, a lot of them are effectively trying to tokenize the entire surface of the planet. And it was this person who thought he bought his neighborhood on in the metaverse, but it turns out that, of course, there are 17 or 18 different metaverses of the earth. So it's not like
Yeah,
he owns his neighborhood for everybody.
yeah.
Uh, Excellent. I'm going to jump. I see Nani's question. I think it's a good one to kind of end this webinar with. Um, Arthur asks, in the case of platforms that give 100% to creators, how do the platforms sustain themselves? I think that's a fair question.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. That's what sound, I think sound, and yeah, that other one. Uh that's what they advertise, but I haven't like looked into the protocol to see. I'm guessing that uh they I'm guessing that they're probably passing off some fee to a consumer. So yeah, I honestly don't know. You'd have to check with those types of projects. Like in the case of OpenSea, uh, they tack on a fee for the marketplace. So it is like 100% to creators, but there's still like fees that the users have. But they're like nominal. They're like 3%, not like a 200% markup, like, or in the case of the music industry, it's like an 800% markup for what they pay the artists.
Right, right. I think going back to that question, like where do you start? You mentioned OpenSea. Yes, there's fees involved, but that's a pretty mainstream place now to poke around. I mean, you can get the Jasper. You can look at the Jasper Wong NFT. You can look at the local players if you want. So that might be a fair starting point because that's where you'll find the invites to the Discord and where can we talk about what we want to do and things like that. I would, sorry, to answer Arthur's question, another way that a lot of these plays work is that the creators own a significant stake of tokens in their project. So when and if and when they're successful in building value, that's also how they might sustain themselves.
So Ryan, there's one more about the Hawaii tourism industry and how can they
Oh,
use
it's on the
Web3
regular
tech?
chat. Yes. Naoko Yonekura. How can Hawaii's tourism industry use these technologies like issue Hawaii state tokens for visitors?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of different ways. Like, companies could form partnerships where, like, let's say you have, a hotel chains like Outrigger and Sheraton. They could do a play like Hotel Tonight where they could sell token holders. They could sell tokens to holders that provide discounts like membership discounts, or they could um, sell their excess inventory like last minute notice to token holders, but kind of give exclusive access to events, hotel stays, things like that. If they're like tour companies that want to create their own DAO, they could create like a similar membership token that provides tourists with access to multiple services at like a flat price. Uh, there are things like that. Um, there are from the city and county. You could do things like passes to like bus passes for tourists that they could buy the token ahead of time and then use it for their stay. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's like what are the how can commerce use Web3 technology? Um, there's a there's a bunch of different ways.
An idea that I had recently was, um, how they tried to buy the Constitution or whatever. Imagine a fundraiser to basically try to outright purchase the Haiku Stairs and create a management organization for that asset, right?
Yeah,
And
you,
I mean, there's a lot of ways that it could be applied, but I think that can lead us to Dagan's question about how we can make this happen when we're talking about perhaps a jurisdiction such as Hawaii, where cryptocurrency restrictions might be constraint on thinking creatively. And I think it also even ties to Nani's question too. But what do you say? I mean, certainly a lot of these marketplaces are accessible without using exchanges. But what do you want? What would you want to see if you had a genie to talk to support a more robust Web3 technology ecosystem in Hawaii?
oh God, I am not an expert on policy, but I think where policy should kind of have some boundaries is probably on exchanges. Exchanges are what most people are familiar with: Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, and then decentralized exchanges are very difficult to create laws around because it's all anonymous. So like liquidity pool and sushi swap like might have a million participants in it, all with, and some of them might be in with multiple wallets and anonymous with thousands of transactions a second. So like I don't know how you regulate something like
Yeah,
that,
there's no organization to go after.
but what the state or federal government can regulate are banks, which are the on ramps to a lot of crypto. Banks and drug dealers, um, but they can regulate banks and how banks are participating in the crypto market. Um, but like custodyship, I think is something that should be regulated, and also stable coins should definitely be regulated.
Excellent. Well, I think unless there aren't any other questions that I've missed, I think Nani's question is one that I might be able to help answer, although Spencer, I'll give you first crack at it because I'm sure you've heard it before. What is the best resource for updates on the regulation of crypto in the state of Hawaii? There are a lot of tools.
Rhinozawa.
No, I was hoping
Rhinozawa was the best resource.
They won't let you register with a Hawaii address. We get questions about this. Where should we direct people? So right now, as I mentioned, the Ways and Means Committee is meeting right now to discuss a bill that would hopefully create the regulatory framework to allow those companies to more easily secure a license to service Hawaii customers. They can still choose not to service Hawaii customers as they are doing now, but that's currently in the works. The HTDC, one of the organizations sponsoring this webinar, is probably your best official resource for both the regulatory side and for that intersection with commerce and economic diversification and economic activity and potential here. So that's htdc.org. But did you have any thoughts, Spencer? I see you sparking.
Do I? Oh, I don't
know.
know.
Okay. No.
No, well, I mean, there's, htdc.org. I was going to say that on the DCIL website, there's a list of participating organizations. A lot of them are exchanges where you can exchange, fiat for crypto. But in all honesty, I don't see any way to regulate decentralized exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
So Hawaii might be handicapped in on-ramps, but if you're on decentralized exchanges and decentralized applications, I think that is even beyond the purview of the money transmitter laws. So I would recommend getting involved with DEXs, with decentralized apps, and like personally, I don't keep anything on any of the exchanges. I participate mostly in decentralized apps or decentralized protocols, not apps.
Yeah, and I think the challenge being that that's still the newer space, but as with everything, it will eventually get simpler and more accessible over time.
Actually, the decentralized space is older than the exchanges. Yeah, because if you think Bitcoin was the first one, right? So that's like a decentralized space that precedes all of the exchanges.
Well, Spencer, thank you very much for sharing your expertise. I know that you were asked both to cover a significant swath of the space and on an abbreviated time schedule. So I really appreciate your sharing it with everybody. And if you're willing to share your presentation slides, we can make that available to people who registered as well.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Well, we have come to the end of the session. I'm glad we got some Q&A there. Again, thanks to Spencer for his time. I hope you learned as much as I did. And I'm going to still need to untangle that. A quick reminder that the session has been recorded and we'll share it with you. So keep an eye on your inboxes. Keep an eye out for our next webinar. It may or may not involve how to do your taxes with crypto. You can watch for that at htdc.org, again, under the DCIL section. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Ellen, for playing host, and we'll see you all at our next webinar. Have a great day. Thanks, Spencer.